Welcome to another parent-teacher video lesson from the earlygiftedmanual.com, a free website for homeschooled children 3 to 7 years old and their parents that promotes and develops giftedness at an early age. I am Gary Blank, the creator of that site, and your host and facilitator for this video and all of the videos in my educational program. As the video lessons are designed to work in conjunction with the program on my website, I ask you to, at some point, click on the URL link in the description box below, and this action will take you to the earlygiftedmanual.com. By doing that, you will be able to put this lesson and all of the video lessons here on my channel in the proper context of the total program that I am presenting to you and your child. And welcome everyone to lesson 54, Geoboards. And in this lesson I will show you some ways you can teach your child to work with a geoboard. And here's what you'll need for this lesson. You will need 2 of these. This is what I call a 5x5 pin geoboard. There's 25 pins total on there, on this side anyway. And on the other side there's more of a circular array, which is also 25, and I guess if you added these in it'd be 29. And you will also need, first of all, let me give you a look at that. As you can see, there's pins that come up off the surface, and you'll be hooking rubber bands onto those. Okay. You will also need just some rubber bands, and I have a little container here full of multicolored, multi-length rubber bands. It might be nice for you and your child to have at least 50 or so or more, and that's what you'll be putting on the geoboard. So I think I'm going to put this over here. So I think the first question we have to answer is, what exactly is this geoboard? Well, it's this one is made out of plastic. I've already showed you the 2 arrays, and you can clip, is that the right word? You can attach rubber bands to it like this over the pins, and the pins of course have a little lip on them so they'll hold it down, and you can make different shapes, like there's a triangle, there's a diamond. If you look at it this way, of course, it's a square. And, you can make various rectangles. So that's what you're doing with a geoboard. So it's great for making shapes, for learning the various shapes. One more avenue in which your child can identify shapes. For example, you could say, well, what is this shape? And as he or she's working with it, you can ask them what shapes they're making. So that's one of its strengths. It has many, but we'll start out with that one. And I think the best way, first of all, before I do that, the other side, of course, is based on a circle, and you can do some different kinds of things with this circle. So you have 2 sides that you can work on. And really, at this age, 3 to 7 year olds, the geoboard is not many formal lessons on it. Later on, as your child gets older, you can work with things like, area and perimeters and stuff like that. But right now, it's pretty much what I call a free manipulation tool for them. It's just an exploratory thing for them. And in that vein, a great way to introduce it would be to work side by side with your child and kind of not get too much in their face in the beginning, and they'll watch you and watch what you're doing and try to mimic some of the things you're doing. So that's a good way to work with these geoboards. Work side by side with your child for a while until you can see that he or she is really getting it, so to speak, seeing what the possibilities are. So What do I mean by free manipulation? Well, here, let me put some of these out here so I can get to them. Well, I guess free manipulation means anything goes. So, you might start out like this, or if your child's working alone, they might start out in a certain way. Let's just say, let's say maybe they just start out with a square, and then, perhaps something like this, and then something like this. And it doesn't have to be symmetrical. I'm a symmetry nut. I can't help myself. They can do pretty much whatever they want on here. You might want to, maybe place some in the corners here. Triangles. See, do I have another small orange one? I think I do. I have to find it here. All right. And as you can see, I could go on, and they can fill this up with as many rubber bands as they want. Doesn't have to be symmetrical. It can be asymmetrical. And one of the things that my students always figured out is this particular board, for some reason, is a little bit cupped. Convex, I guess you'd call it. So they found out that they could spin it around like this. They got a big kick out of that, and that may be driving my video camera crazy. I don't know what this is going to look like, but anyway, your child might discover that too. On this side, you can't do it on the other side, but on this side you could actually spin it around. So the point I'm making is keep it loose, let them have some fun with it. Model some things, sit right next to them and model some things, and your child may not even be interested in what you're doing. That's okay, but more than likely he or she'll be looking over, trying to get some ideas as to how to work with this Geoboard. And of course we have the other side, which is based on a circle. I'm just going to do a little bit here because I think you're already getting the idea here. And there's a circle, and then you can start doing things like dividing up the circle, or whatever, and you could keep going on like that and do other things here with this circle. And there's one technique where if you just go off center like this and go all the way around, you get this nice looking spirally thing in the middle. But I'll let you or your child discover that on your own. So once again, for starters, you want to for starters and throughout your young child's interaction with this manipulative here, the Geoboard, you want it to be kind of a free-flowing kind of thing, really no super formal lessons. And now let's talk a little bit about some of the things you, the parent-teacher, can look for while your child is exploring and experimenting with the Geoboard. You don't have to say anything about these things we're about to do here, but it's up to you. You can certainly have a dialogue with your child as he or she is working, but be very careful you don't try to turn everything into a lesson, because I can tell you from experience that your child may just get up and walk away. So hopefully you know when to, as I always like to say, when to move in and when to move out. All right, so here are some of those things you can look for. So one thing is a change in shape or size, and let me show you what I mean by that. Let's see, what color shall I use here? Perhaps this purple one. I'm going to make this figure, and of course this is a triangle, right? Well, you can change the shape and size of this figure just by through manipulation, and there we go. If you move it up to this pin here, now you have, of course, a rectangle. And to take it one step further, you could move this to this pin here, and now you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided figure. Move it up here, and look, you have a 6-sided figure, polygon, so to speak. So that's something you can look for and maybe even talk with your child about in a very subtle way while they're working with the Geoboard. It's called, that concept is called manipulation. And you can also do changes in direction, which we call rotation. And let's see, I think I'll make a triangle this time. And of course, there you have a triangle, but what if I turn it this way? It's still a triangle, right? But now its orientation is different. And that's what we call rotation, or a change in direction. Once again, if you rotate it once again clockwise, it looks different. Still the same figure, but oriented in a different way. And finally, like this, and back to where we started. So that's called rotation. And believe it or not, let's say, for example, you make something like a square. When you rotate that, well, it's always going to look the same. The orientation is the same because it's a square and because it's in the middle of the Geoboard. So that's kind of an interesting exception your child might discover. So there's rotation. We have another concept that's called translation. And let me see if I can do that for you here. I'm going to start out with a square. And all translation means is that a figure can easily be moved from one location to another on the Geoboard without really being changed. For example, I can take this square here and move everything down or over one peg, and boom. There it is. It's still the square. It's just been moved up from this part to this part, and I suppose I can move it anywhere that I really wanted to on the Geoboard. So we call that translation. And finally, just a couple more concepts here. There's what they call congruency. And let's see, I like to go with this triangle again. And let me get another one out here. And that simply means, as you can see, that two figures are alike in size and shape. That's what we mean by congruency. And of course, that can be anywhere on the board here. Not just triangles. It could be, for example, something like this. Yeah. There are two congruent rectangles. And then, of course, we have symmetry. And, of course, at this point, your child certainly knows about symmetry now. So we can make a triangle like that. And, of course, how could we make this symmetrical? We could put something right there, and look, we now have two symmetrical triangles. And of course, as your child works with the Geoboard, some kids like symmetry more than others. As I told you, I'm a symmetry nut, but you can certainly look for symmetry in your child's constructions. And of course, there are a lot more. I'm just going to stick with this basic one here. So those are some of the things that you can look for, and don't Don't forget about, you can also work with circles over here on this side and do like some, your child can do some very different kinds of things using the circular array on this side of the geoboards. And most geoboards are set up like this. They have the grid on one side and the circular array on the other side. So I hope that's some good ideas for you to use when you're working with your child, telling them all about and showing them all about geoboards.